please welcome to a screen in your house our Minnesota State Auditor, Julie Blaha.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. And I'm also so glad to be following professional entertainers and people with lots of experience, because that's everything that an auditor wants. So I'm going to start with what I like to tell people anytime I have a captive audience is to talk about one idea. If you leave here with one idea, I want you to know this. You are smart enough to make life and death multi-billion-dollar policy decisions. Yeah, again, this is State Auditor Julie Blaha. My job is to oversee nearly $40 billion in local government spending and all the good work those funds represent. Now, since I work with the level of government that most people are introduced to policy for the first time, and I was a middle school teacher, my crusade is to make sure everyone has the skills and the confidence to engage with policy work, because I know the more of us involved with decisions we make in government, the better those decisions will be. Now, all you need to be a policymaker is three things: an open mind, a little bit of math, and a lot of questions. Don't believe me? I think I lost some people when I said math, but let's walk through a recent decision I was part of as part of the Executive Council. Now, that's the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, and me as the state auditor. Our decision was, how should Minnesota respond to the coronavirus pandemic? Now, this is about as big a decision, right, as anyone in government will make. And I'll show you with this idea that you have the skills to follow the numbers on a decision like that. So open up your mind, join me on my desktop for a little bit of math, and let's start asking questions. I'm going to switch down to my favorite happy place as a teacher, what I think of as Math World down here. This is where I like to live. The math we used for our decisions was in the form of a model. Now, first question, of course, what is a model? Well, I like to think of a model as a machine. Now, the gears that run this machine are things like the structure of the model, parameters, formulas, assumptions. In fact, the ones I'm showing here are the actual components of the Minnesota model we're using today. Well, once you've got your model together, the next step is to put in your data. Now, as you can imagine, you want lots of data, you want effective data, you want as much as you can get when it comes to data. The better the data, the better the result. So once you take your data, put it through your model, turn the crank, otherwise known as running things through your modeling software, and out pops a projection. Now, I want to stop here for just a second. I want to use the word projection for a reason. Some people like to call these predictions, but I worry that can get people thinking that a model is assured. Well, models are a lot of things, but one thing they are not is a crystal ball. Just like a weather forecast, a projection is helpful, but not an absolute sure thing. Now, as the saying goes, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So with that, let's now take a moment and dig into our projection. So all you need on a projection, we're just going to keep it simple. We're starting at a high level, like most leaders are going to do. We're not going to look at specific numbers or dates, but rather overall patterns. So to get going, we want to compare the number of new cases compared to time. Now, what else is important to look at? Another good question, and that is our capacity. We need a line to show the number of hospital beds, protective equipment, ventilators, tests, all of that stuff. So once we have our setup, let's try some scenarios. First scenario we asked about was, what would happen if we did nothing? Well, here's what we got. We got a curve like this. Now, virtually every single model you'll see out there will give you this curve. So key question on this curve is, we see the progress, right? It goes up quick, tops off, and comes back down. So the question is, can we handle that? Well, you know, this curve rises above our capacity. So the answer is no. Anything above your capacity line, well, that now is a place where more people are going to die. So we have to worry about this line. We go over it, it's tough. All right, so if that doesn't work, the next question is, well, can we get the numbers down? Can we try something like this? How can we get the curve to look like this? Can we get it so that it'll just flatten out, flatten the curve, you've heard that. Can we get it to flatten out and stay under that capacity line? Well, to make that happen, we had to put assumptions and all kinds of things into the model. And what it basically had to be to flatten it out would be things like extreme quarantine for until we get maybe a vaccine. That could be over a year. So that didn't seem like much of an option as well. So what's our next shot? Can we try something else? So the next check was, well, what happens if we do some sort of combination? Can we do something with some smarter mitigation, some social distancing, keep some things open, close some other things, kind of a midpoint. And what we found was this curve. Now we're able to do things like shift the curve back. Now you'll notice the curve's about the same height, but it's back in time. Well, does that help? Well, the next question is, can we make that work? Well, we can only make that work if we can move this capacity line. So if this line can move up, if we can move this up and get this line over this line, we have some options. We can get better outcomes. So as you can see, we started this chat with some math, right? We started this chat with math. We asked a few questions, and what did we get? 3 different options. Now we have choices. Now, before we made actual decisions, of course, we asked more questions, which led to more data, and refined the model and more projections. And where the health experts and the governor and our entire team came down was this, our stay-at-home order. Now, I'll bet if you have been watching, you've been watching for about 4 minutes here. I'm going to bet that in that 4 minutes, you've already come up with some of your own questions. I'll bet you followed that. I bet you can have a conversation about this. See, if you can keep asking questions, those questions will lead you to choices. Then all you have to do is pick the best one. So the next time you wonder if you can make major policy decisions, don't worry if you don't have all the answers. In fact, try to go in without any answers, just an open mind. Grab some math and start asking questions. You can do this. Happy policymaking.